Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and yeah, I know the lighting's a little bit different. I know I'm in the dark, and why am I in the dark? Because it's about 1 o'clock right now, guys. It is 1 o'clock in the morning right now, and the reason that I'm doing this review right now is because I didn't want to wait till tomorrow to review it, because I have 2 shows to review. I want to review a couple classic movies for you guys also tomorrow, and I just don't want to waste my time reviewing a show, 2 shows. I don't want to. I felt like reviewing this episode right now. I don't know why. I just randomly felt like it. Let's talk about this episode of The Bridge. Basically, again, as I know my lighting is shit. Don't complain about it. Let's just get this review. This is going to be review for The Bridge, Season 2, Episode 4, The Acorn. And this episode, in my opinion, was probably the best episode of the season. Everything was really good in this episode. It's really gearing up, definitely. I thought that, definitely the intensity and the drama is really gearing up in this episode. Really looking forward to next week's episode. I mean, this episode is definitely just, every episode, they build up the intensity so well, and I'm really enjoying the show. And this episode was not disappointing at all. I thought this episode was a little slow at times. That's my only complaint, was a little slow at times. However, it was a very good episode. I really enjoyed it, and I kind of like how FX, most of FX's shows are slow-paced like this. That's not something new. I mean, Justified, very slow-paced show. American's very slow-paced, and this is no exception. Let's just get to this review, though. So basically, the first thing we see, Eleanor again. She walks on an abandoned road in the desert, and nothing she does is ordinary, of course. She stops her trek to create a rock barrel for a dead armadillo found in the middle of the road. I mean, everything about this woman is very creepy. We don't know where she's going, but it becomes clear when she eventually meets with a man, likely one of Fausto Galvin's men, and goes into his van. So, the banker that Eleanor had threatened in the premiere is back. She had threatened him in the premiere, and he's looking really full of fear and grief as he ends a phone call, and I thought that was definitely very interesting, excuse me. Yeah, so that was definitely very interesting. So elsewhere, Dobbs died. Jim's Dobbs. Now, I predicted that he was going to die because, they said he was dying in the first episode, so I was pretty sure he was going to die here, so he did. And, Jack doesn't call. Jack doesn't call Sonya like he promised, and of course she's visibly upset, which anyone would be. I mean, if I got a call that said one of my relatives died, and someone who I was close to, I mean, wasn't one of her relatives, but think about it. This was her sister's killer. Very important man to her. She has been searching very hard for her sister's killer. She finally found him. He's dying. She wanted to bring him to justice, obviously. She didn't get a chance to, and I'd be pretty upset, too, if, the man called me, and if the same guy called me and said, hey, so-and-so died and everything, so. She realizes she lost the last link to her sister. That's why she's so upset, and it's actually a very moving scene. I mean, the scene, she literally screams to him, don't touch, she screams to me, don't touch me. She doesn't want anything to do with him, and I felt really bad for Sonya in this episode after the scene, because it was just like, that was her sister's killer. That was the man that, she really wanted to, she wanted to find her sister's killer. She found her sister's killer, and now that she found her sister's killer, he's died. So, definitely very moving scene. And I really like the way they did the scene. Very, very moving, very realistic. Like, the way she was crying. I mean, she's crying over a guy that killed her sister. And it's not so much that she's mourning him. It's more that she's upset because she could have had that last link and she didn't. So that's what she's kind of upset about. So then in Mexico, we see the idealistic young prosecutor comes to visit Marco, and he's looking for answers and help, and he asks about Marco's connection to Galvin so they can take him down, and he tries to convince Marco to stop skirting the town and come to the good side, and Marco replies, there are no sides. If you think about it, does Galvin really give you an option? I mean, that does make sense, definitely. I mean, Galvin doesn't really give him an option, so, yeah, I thought that was definitely very interesting. So basically, at the scene of we see something else a little bit later in the episode when we'll get to that with Daniel and Adriana. The detectives quickly find the link between Eleanor and the bank. Now, I will say this, Daniel and Adriana, let's just get to Daniel and Adriana, because we saw like one scene of them in this episode. They were making their way back into the bank to meet with that banker, and they start questioning him and leave when he refuses answers. Now, as I said, Daniel and Adriana end up in the same place as Eleanor in the last episode. I was very interested in seeing where they were going to end up in this episode, because they met up, they were exactly where Eleanor was. So I was really interested in seeing where they were going to end up. Now they start questioning him and leave when he refuses answers, and the banker knows he was screwed over, and he goes to make a call that would end Daniel and Adriana's investigation for good, but he's tired of the game. He has his assistant, the guy the guy that had his ear cut off, if you remember. There was that guy that stepped into a room, had his ear cut off, that's the guy he's talking to. He basically asks him to toss the phones he has in his drawer. The banker heads outside, shoots himself in the mouth, and I thought that was very surprising. I did not expect that at all. I mean, he just, shot himself in the mouth. Whatever, I guess. Definitely that was very interesting. I mean, they killed off a major... The Bridge is not afraid to kill off major characters. I mean, that's what I like about the show. It's not afraid to kill off some major characters. By the way, guys, I do have a light, if you guys care. I do have a little light right there. But, yeah, the Bridge is not afraid to kill off major characters, and I think that's a very ballsy move for them to do, just to kill Jim Dobbs and also kill off some guy we didn't, the banker. Definitely very interesting. So then what ends up happening is basically that at the scene of the banker's suicide, the detectives quickly find the link between Eleanor and the bank. They're not sure exactly what they have to do with each other. Now Marco tries appealing to Daniel, whose life he had saved last season. I didn't know that, but this recap says that. But the journalists don't give him anything. However, thanks to the banker's assistant, Sonya finds the cell phones and links them to a company in Mexico. And Marco's very hesitant about going to Mexico with Sonya, and he's very afraid they might get in deeper trouble, and he isn't wrong, because when they arrive at the company, they meet with the CEO, who also happens to be Galvin's right-hand man. He also happens to be played by, he happens to be Galvin's right-hand man. So this is where the episode gets very interesting, because Marco is completely unsettled by the CEO's appearance, obviously, because he's Galvin's right-hand man, and we're very unsettled as well. It's a very unsettling scene, definitely. Sonya's questioning him. The CEO plays it very nice and gracious, seemingly cooperating with their investigation, surprisingly. And once Sonya's finished with her questioning, the CEO asks to speak to Marco alone. Now, Marco immediately convinces him that Sonya isn't involved as they go on to their walk and talk, and Marco also tells him they haven't found Eleanor. But the CEO says Galvin already did, and after killing an American teenager, the U.S. will not back down in the search for her, and the situation just became more clearer, yet more complicated, so that was definitely very interesting. Now, even the head of the company showing up to speak to the detective is suspicious to Sonya, and she asks why he wanted to speak to Marco alone. Now, Marco said it was a job offer, and, so he said it was a job offer, basically. So let me get a couple of scenes of to update us on the status of other characters. I'll talk about this one in a little while, but basically, we then see Linder in the episode as they continue to torture the Mexican police officer, and the prisoner taunts them about their unskilled torture methods, and he doesn't care if they kill him, and he says, "Oh, you should give a shit, friend." So, yeah, they're going pretty far with that torturing, definitely. So Jack then shows up at Sonya's place. Obviously, Sonya, they're not on good terms right now because Jack did not tell her about Dobbs dying, but he decides to apologize to her, and I thought this was the best thing to do. He does apologize to her. For a man who hasn't told, that is hiding something, because we know that Jim and Hank are hiding something from her. We know the two of them are hiding something from her, and for a man that's hiding something from her, he really does care about her. It really shows that he does care about her. It's not something he's hiding. In this scene, I thought he really cared about her. He didn't expect to have any kind of reaction to his brother's death, so that's why, he didn't tell her, because he didn't really have any kind of reaction. So, basically, he says, "He's gone. Can you feel it? It's over. What's over?" And it's really not over, because Sonya then moves to comfort him, and probably herself too. They surprisingly end up having sex. She takes his hand, places it on her throat, and a very choking sex scene commences. And, that was definitely very surprising. They just started having sex, I guess. But afterward, Jack looks at the drawings on Sonya's fridge, pulls out one from the bottom, takes it. The drawing looks like a murder scene, which is probably her sister's, because she's still trying to find out stuff about her sister. And it doesn't really reveal that he doesn't, what does it reveal? That he doesn't want Sonya to discover. Obviously, as I said, he is definitely hiding something. Here's what I'm thinking is going on here. Okay, why would he have a drawing of a murder scene? Maybe Jack was involved with the murder of her sister, because he was related, he was Dobbs' brother, naturally, this could make sense. You know, Dobbs could ask Jim, hey, you know, he could ask him, do you want to help me, you know, do you want to help me with this, and do you want to help me, you know, with this crime scene and everything, and that's what he asked him, basically, you know, do you want to help me, you know, kill your sister, kill Sonya's sister, basically, and I'm thinking that, you know, that Jack was responsible for this. He was part of the, you know, the hit on her sister, so I think that's what's going on here, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see if what I think is true. Yeah, so Marco's then finding some peace at church, and when the prosecutor meets him there, he asks for witnesses, and Marco then tells him about Eva and how Sonya and Marco saved her. She may be able to actually identify the criminals to help take down Robbles and then Fausto Galvin. And then the very end of the episode, we go back to Eleanor. She walks down the stairs of an underground tunnel, and she meets with Galvin. And he has something that she wants. And this was very interesting. And by the way, that whole Marco scene is also very interesting because she may be able to identify those criminals. Which is huge because Fausto Galvin, as we know, is after him. So he needs, you know, Fausto Galvin's after him. So maybe she can track down the criminals and maybe, you know, they can find a way to stop it or whatever. I don't know. I don't really know what's going to happen there. We'll have to see. Now back to Eleanor. This scene was very creepy in my opinion. She's walking down the stairs of an underground tunnel. She meets with Galvin, and he has something that she wants. And she says she can fix that mess with the money and banker, and she asks him if they can still have their deal. And this is actually the first time we've seen her look intimidated, and she actually looks intimidated in this scene. I mean, she didn't look like she, you know, she looked very intimidated. Like, she looked like she was scared, believe it or not. And I like this because it kind of got us to care for her character. I mean, definitely, a good villain is a character that has a lot of layers, and her character, and we saw in this episode, she has a lot of layers. So Galvin's a little daunted, you know, and this is a very intense meeting between the two characters. They're both fully aware of what the other is capable of, and what Galvin has of hers is in a cage, and she asks permission to see the prisoner, walks and hums to the person behind the bar. She keeps, like, humming this weird tune throughout the whole episode. I don't know what that was about. But and then we finally find out what this episode's called, an acorn. She offers an acorn, and fingers come out to snatch it. Now, who is that? That's the question. Who is that? We don't know who that is. They didn't explain to us who that is. And I guess in the next episode, we're probably going to find out who that is. I don't know who it is, and I guess we're just going to have to find out, you know, as the episode, you know, next week. So, definitely, I really like the main plot. Thought the main plot was very, very interesting, especially with Sonya. Very interesting stuff there. Let's go to the subplot. We did have some stuff going on with a couple side characters. Let's first talk about Charlote and Rays. They were staying at a random motel, sticking to his plan to run and head to Alaska, and Charlotte is still trying to find a way out of it by calling Monty, trying to convince Rays it's not a solid plan. You know, it's not really a good plan that he's doing this. And Rays gives her this story about creating a new life and family in Alaska. It's very ridiculous and clearly not something Charlotte really wants to do. However, Rays' plan quickly gets squashed when Monty finally arrives, explaining that Galvin isn't mad at them for losing the drugs, and that he has his new assignment for them, and Charlotte jumps at the second chance, and I thought that was definitely very interesting the way, you know, that's going to be very interesting to see how that works. Definitely very interesting to see how that works, as I said. And then we get a couple brief scenes to update us on the status of other characters. Mainly Rauls' assassin, because, you know, Raul was killed, obviously. Rauls' assassin meets up with his boss and tells about his spiritual ritual reaction. Now, we know that there was something with that cross that he saw. You know, he had some sort of weird reaction with that. Now, we find out what's going on here. He tells his boss that he saw Jesus, and his boss asks if Jesus pays better than... I thought this was very interesting. His boss asks if Jesus pays better than he does, and, you know, what's very interesting is, what is this subplot going to lead to besides, you know, besides the obvious? I really don't know how this is going to connect to the main plot, and... eventually, all these plots are going to come together. I definitely see that all these plots are coming together. I mean, Marco met up with Daniel and Adriana in this episode. I mean, a lot of these plots are going to definitely come together, and I don't really know where this is going to go, but definitely it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Raul, definitely. I mean with Raul's assassin. I mean, definitely they're bringing a little bit religion into the show, which is interesting, so... And the only thing to talk about, I already talked about Linder. That's really the only thing to talk about, and that was basically the episode. Now, What was that? I don't know what that was. Let's talk about what I thought of this episode. I thought this episode was amazing. Best episode of the season by far. A lot of questions, though. do you guys agree with me in my theory? I think that Jack was responsible, did play some part in the death of Sonya's sister. That's what I'm thinking. What do you think Jack is hiding from Sonya? I could be completely wrong with that. That's just my opinion. That's what I think is going on. I could be completely wrong, as I said. I could be completely wrong. I could not, I could be completely wrong with that. That might not make sense at all, but that's what I personally think is going on there. I think that he was involved with, the death of Sonya's sister. I don't know how, but I think he was. As far as Marco goes, is that girl going to be, is Eva going to be able to identify the criminals to take down Robbles and Galvin? Is she going to be able to do that? I don't know. We'll have to see what's going to happen there. As far as Eleanor goes, it was definitely interesting to see her scared in this episode. I mean, the acting from the girl that plays Eleanor, very good acting from her. I mean, really, you really feel... The great thing about the show is you really feel the eeriness of the show. There was no Hank in this episode. I don't know where Hank was, but he wasn't in this episode. But you really feel the eeriness in this show, and that's one of the things I really like about this, this episode especially. Who were those fingers? Who is that person that snatched the acorn? I don't really know. I think it's very interesting that it was called the Acorn, but they didn't reveal it to you till the end of the episode. I thought that was definitely good writing there. As far as Charlote and Ray go, I don't really know what's going to happen there. Galvin's not mad at them for losing the drugs. He has his new assignment for them. So I don't know what the new assignment is. We'll have to see what that new assignment is. Definitely going to be interesting to see what that new assignment is. Rauls, assassin, I don't know what's going on with him. He has some weird religious stuff going on there. I don't really know what's going on there. We'll have to see how they handle this. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how they handle this, because I'm interested in seeing how they handle this. That's just my personal opinion. I'm very interested in seeing how they handle this. And I think the only other thing I'm going to talk about is Linder. He's just going to continue to torture that prisoner. I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen with Linder. I guess we'll just have to see. But that's basically it for my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Overall, I really liked this episode. This was probably the best episode of the season. Really loving this show. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Wilfred, which I may actually review to you after I watch the episode. It's either going to be my review of Wilfred, or for, I do have to do the August movie preview show, so that might actually be my next video. I don't know, we'll have to see. But I'll see you guys in my next video. I don't know what it's going to be for, but I'll see you guys for that. Sorry about the lighting again. Sorry about the lighting. I know it's dark, but I wanted to do this video now because I want to get it over with. I didn't want to have to review it tomorrow and not remember it. It's because I watched the Encore again. I wanted to review it now because I really felt like it, because I really like this episode and I really felt like reviewing it. And let me know what you guys like, this lighting and everything. Was it hard to, see it in the dark? It's not really dark, actually, because I have this light on, and I don't know, my camera doesn't make it dark or whatever, but I will see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.